Welcome to A1R Psychic Radio here on Moonstruck TV with Amanda Hall Psychic all the way from the Gold Coast. For those of you that don't know me by now, I've been with the network a bit over 12 months now. I've been inducted into the Psychic Hall of Fame here in Australia and voted for the 4th year in a row by the public as Australian Psychic of the Year. So thank you to everybody that voted for me here in Oz. So each week we have a little formula that we follow on the show. We have our Simply Tarot card of the week, our candle of the week. We feature a little mini astrology lesson. We have a glimpse around the universe, and then we take a couple of callers from all around the world. So let's kick the show off this week with the Simply Tarot card of the week. Now, these are a set of tarot cards that I designed all the way back in 2004, 2005 with an Australian publisher here in Australia called Hinkler Books, and they did go worldwide. We went to the bestsellers list immediately, and we've had tremendous success with them, and they're still my favourite. They're still my baby, even though we've introduced other lines since then. This is my favourite set of tarot cards based on the Rider-Waite set. Now, this week we've got an ambiguous card. We've got the death card. Now, everybody shudders when they see this and they think, oh dear, impending death of person, something I'm not going to like. It's actually the very opposite. It never ever represents a death of a person. It means the ending of a situation. It's the death card, which is death representing endings, new beginnings and opportunities. So I look at this card in a very, very positive light. When I see this, I think, hallelujah, we're going to have an end to anything that's been bothering me, troubling me, or has taken a long time to bring to a conclusion. It's finally, we can slam the door shut on it. We can open up new possibilities, new opportunities, and start afresh. And I really find this card a very refreshing card, even though a lot of people don't particularly like it. It is one of my favourite cards for that reason. So those of you that aren't familiar with the Simply Tarot card, what we did was we took the Rider-Waite deck, which is the most popular deck in the world, and brought it into the 21st century using real life people, photographic shots, lots of scenery from here in Australia. And we tried to recreate as best as we could the original teachings and imagery of the Rider-Waite deck, and from Pamela Coleman Smith's drawings, and she only died in the middle of last century, and she really didn't get a lot of recognition for her work. So I hope that her work will live on through what we tried to endeavour to recreate the Rider-Waite deck and bring the magic and the allure of the tarot with it. Now, you'll find on the bottom of the cards they all have a basic meaning that helps you understand and learn more quickly. So we're going to keep the show moving along at a fairly hurtling pace so we can fit in our couple of callers. So this week I've actually chosen to work with the Earth sign candle. Now, the reason why I've chosen the Earth sign candle is because we're in the Taurus energy. Isn't that funny? For all those darling little Taurians out there, happy birthday. So if you were to burn an Earth sign candle and you're not an Earth sign, what could we expect from that? Well, what we will be expecting is to bring stability into our lives, to bring some grounding, possibly some more money, but to also just sort of slow things down just marginally in our lives, sort of take a deep breath and sort of exhale and sort of look around and take a little bit of stock of what is actually going on in our lives. So for those of you that may not be Tauruses, and you might be another star sign and you're saying, this week I've been feeling a bit flat, I've been feeling a bit tired, I don't know where my energy's gone. It sometimes happens when the energy does move well and truly into the Taurian energy. We're sort of right in the middle of the cycle, but we quite often, we exhale and we go, it's nice to stand still for a moment. It's nice to just gather my thoughts. So this is the extra large candle. You get somewhere between 60 to 100 hours out of burning time with that. Always make sure that you place something underneath your candle before you pop it on the furniture and burn it. Recommended burning time is about 15 minutes to 2 hours per day. Always write on your list what you're trying to change or what you want to bring into your life. So if we were working with an Earth sign candle, obviously we would be promoting good health. We would also be promoting some stability in our lives and potential extra income. So anything that relates to anything earthy, practical, anything that you might be plodding along at, things that you're working slowly towards, long-range goals are good to put under this candle. Not so much for the faster moving ones, but the more middle to long-range ones is what we burn with an Earth sign candle. For those of you that might have a limited space, we also have our travel pack. This week I've chosen obviously the 3 Earth sign candles, but you can choose any 3 from our extensive range of 28. These ones burn approximately up to 15 hours. Now, bearing in mind they are all in glass containers, it's the glass itself that gets hot, not the actual soy wax. And we do use lead-free wicks and the best soy wax in the world that we can find to this point. So moving right along, now our little glimpse around the universe. Now we've spoken about these two configurations in recent programs, but they're still having a major bearing on our lives for each and every one of us, and this is why I'm going to bring them up again today. So we have Mercury, the planet of communication, is holding hands with the planet Uranus, which is the unusual and unexpected in Aries. Now, what is this asking us to do? When we say a planet is conjunct or holding hands, it means they're sitting side by side within a degree of 7 degrees. So it means that they really are in each other's pockets. So Mercury, the planet of communication, conjunct with Uranus in Aries, is asking us to have some breakthrough moments. It's asking us to sort of really listen to what our thought patterns are telling us. Don't dismiss something because it seems wacky or way out, different or unusual, or it might seem that we're being too selfish or too self-centered. Why is it only going to affect me? Why am I only getting this thought bubble for me? What about everybody else in the family or everyone else I work with? It's a time when we have to take it back to self first. You have to almost be the leader in this situation. So don't dismiss anything. Have a pad and pen if you're old-fashioned like me, or have your mobile phone and put it into your voice recording files or something like that. But make sure you get these ideas down so that you can go back and formulate the plan a little bit later on. These may never, ever happen again. So that's what I'm saying. They'll come, they'll go. They'll come, they'll go. They'll come, they'll go. So we need to capitalise on that. So changing tack a little bit, we're going to be looking at Pluto conjunct or holding hands again with Mars in Capricorn. Now, Pluto is the planet of transformation. Pluto moves extremely slowly. Takes anything from 12 to 48 years to go through a sign approximately. Maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it seems like 48 years sometimes. But he does take over 200 years to go around the zodiac, so I'm probably not exaggerating. What he's asking us to do, because it's in Capricorn, is to really look at how we can sort of start to move some very long-range plans along. Pluto is the planet of transformation, of death, decay, regeneration, a little bit like the death card. But when we've got Mars here, Mars is the planet of action. But Mars is also the planet that governs things like armies, war, anything that's a military or an official sort of capacity where we can rally the troops. Now, that can go, even extend to unions. So don't just think of Mars as being a military planet, think of it as being the army of the people. So at the moment, he's asking us to look at a different way of rallying the troops and getting the army of the people to take their message to government, to big business, to the officialdom, and say, I am not happy. This is what I want to change. Do not sit back and be complacent. Now, for many nations around the world, you all have your own individual issues or your local issues that you might need to rally for. But just a couple that come off the top of my head. One would be gun laws in the USA. And I know there's fors and against, and I'm not going to sit in the middle of the argument and say what my personal views are. But that's a classic example of taking the message out in a different way, of rallying the army of people in a different way. And we've seen that with the youth in America, taking it to the older members in the community and saying we're not happy. Here in Australia this morning, we've had a rally in Melbourne, which is the capital city of Victoria, where the unions are all joining together. Every single different union under the Australian flag is sort of all marching together for workers' rights and wage theft. And it's something that this country hasn't seen in a very, very long time. And the way that they're marketing it or presenting it in a different way is, number one, they're all on the same team for a change instead of all fighting individually. But secondly, they're using the power of social media to get their message out. So you can see how these things work in real life action. You may have a different action that you need to take, and it may be something that's very personal and close to your heart, where it may only be the rally of your army of 3 people. That's okay. So we're going to move along now, and I'm really excited to sort of each week I bring you a little mini astrology lesson, and it came to me a couple of weeks ago that we've covered some of the basic areas of astrology, of the planets, of the houses and the energies, and how the moon works and how Mercury works through the signs, and we've done love and we've done a little bit on health. And I thought, well, maybe we might mix it up a little bit, and now let's work on some famous singers, because I really think we've got such amazing talent around this globe of ours. ours, and I'm going to feature a different singer each week from a different star sign, and I will take it in turns, working with the zodiac, working around the zodiac, and we'll have 1 week we'll have a male in that sign, the next week we'll have a female, until we've completed the 12 signs. Now, some people may no longer be with us. That doesn't diminish their role in history and what they brought to the music industry. It just means it's time for us to honour them as well, not just the living. And I'm really excited this week to kick the show, this new series, off with David Cassidy. Now, for a lot of women around the world, he was our first in love and our heartthrob, and everybody that we all fell in love with and wanted to marry when we were teenagers. And it was very sad and very tragic last year, the passing of David Cassidy at 67. I was really quite shocked when I heard that he was ill. He's always been one of my personal favourite singers, and he was somebody that I found very inspirational. And it was only when I started to do the research for this section did I realise that how he didn't really finish his career, which I knew he didn't, at the end of the Partridge Family after 4 years. But that's, I think, where most people remember him from, as Keith Partridge in the Partridge Family, that beautiful musical television sitcom. And that's where we all first saw him and all fell in love with him. So just to give you a little bit of background about David Cassidy, he is an Aries. Well, he was an Aries. He is the epitome of an Aries, because here we've got a young man that, was thrust into the limelight at a very, very young age. His parents split up when he was very young. He came from a musical, theatrical sort of background, so he was destined to be on the stage, in my opinion. But the fact that he spent a lot of his childhood by himself, being isolated and blaming himself for the lack of his father in his life, a very Aries thing to do, because Aries is the sign of being the leader, of being someone sometimes that you have to do the journey by yourself, even from a very young age. Now, there's lots of schools of thought about that. Does it make you stronger? What doesn't hurt, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, all those sort of things. But I think in some cases, I think it's very tragic, because you have a young man, David Cassidy, that spent all his life trying to get his father's attention. I mean, it wasn't his fault that his parents, divorced when he was very young, and lived on separate sides of the country, so there wasn't great access and all those sort of things that maybe would have been possible today. And he never felt a sense of belonging, which I think is very tragic. But also that never came across in his work or on screen. And when you look at someone like David Cassidy, who was only on the Partridge Family for 4 years, and during that 4 years he worked on the show during the day, he recorded songs for the show of a night after work, and then he spent from Friday afternoon till Sunday afternoon touring and promoting the music from the show. The poor man really never had a rest for 4 years. No wonder he said that when he left London, that was it. He was going to retire. He was going to have some downtime. He was absolutely, utterly exhausted. Plus, he was very concerned at the mass hysteria that was being caused by young women sort of throwing themselves at the stages. And one young woman did pass away from a heart attack from memory, not because of the crush, but it was at the event, and it was just a signal to him that this merry-go-round had to stop. So, yes, for a few years he disappeared out of the limelight, and then he came back many, many, many times to reinvent himself in many different ways, from the singer, the songwriter, the entertainer. He went to Broadway. He was an actual character actor. He was in television shows. There wasn't anything that this man couldn't do. And he did. He reinvented himself 4 times, a minimum of 4 times. He made a comeback in a different capacity. Not too many other entertainers can claim that. Now, some of the other interesting facts that I also learned was he was the biggest selling, or still is, the biggest selling artist in the world. He outsold Elvis Presley and the Beatles. Isn't that amazing, with his record sales? And to date, he still holds some of the biggest concerts, numbers of people that attended a concert in the world. And I'm not just talking about in the US or London. Even here in Australia at the Melbourne Cricket Ground, I believe he was at, he still holds the biggest capacity for anybody attending a single concert at any stage in our history. So I find that really quite exciting, to sort of be able to talk about somebody like that who had an amazing career. And for those of you that don't know, he did die of liver failure because he did become an alcoholic. but he also battled Alzheimer's disease as his mother did, and he always stated he never wanted to be the point where he was unrecognisable and nobody could communicate with him, and that he wouldn't be able to, you know, recognise anybody. So I think it was in some ways a blessing that he went sooner rather than later as the illness was starting to take hold. And yes, it was very obvious that Alzheimer's was starting to kick in, but he still had a beautiful heart. He was still able to captivate an audience. And if you ever get a chance, go back and have a look at him on YouTube, on his final concert, where, yes, you can still see the brilliance of the man, but you can also see the early stages of this disease starting to take hold. But everybody that knew him and worked with him spoke very highly of him, of being the consummate professional. He was not into drugs, alcohol, or anything illegal in the time that he was in the Teeny Bopper set. He didn't have time, as he says, to have even considered it, but it wasn't part of what he wanted to do anyway. He wanted to create and promote a wholesome outlook to the industry, that parents could accept that their daughters were screaming over, you know, going to a rock concert with something that wasn't based on sex, drugs and rock and roll. And I think we should take our hat off and admire this man and his work and his legacy that he leaves behind. And he does leave behind two beautiful children, a daughter and a son. Unfortunately, he never spent a lot of time with his daughter. That's very personal, and I'm not going to go into that. He did spend a lot of time with his son growing up. And more that I researched, more and more I found that this man that we all loved and adored, named David Cassidy, all as he ever wanted was to be loved. And love seemed to elude him. I'm not saying women weren't madly in love with him around the world, but for him to find personal happiness and joy only happened a few times in his life. And I don't know that he ever really knew what it truly was to be loved like the rest of us do. And I think that's a terrible tragedy, because I'm sure there's many a woman around the world that would have happily married him and made the perfect wife. But, you know, and also that he desperately wanted the recognition and the approval of his dad, which he never seemed to have. But he did go on to work with his stepbrothers, and they've done musicals, they've done Broadway, they've done films and things together. So there's the plethora of work out there. And I salute you, David Cassidy. We all love you. May you rest in peace. Now we're going to take our first caller, and it's Mary in Glendale, Arizona. Are you there, Mary?
All right.
Hi, Mary. How can I help you, sweetie?
Do you see any, other half in my future or anything?
I'm having trouble hearing you, sweetie. Can you speak a little bit clearer for me?
Do you see a significant other in my future? Like a lover or anything?
You want to know if there's a new lover coming into your life, is that correct?
I know somebody I just need to know. I would like to know if, it's going to stick around or come back or...
So was there somebody that from your past that you wanted to ask about whether they were coming back? Is that what you're trying to share with me?
Yes.
Okay. All right, let's tune into that. First things first, I don't believe that the person that you're wanting to come back into your life really feels the same way that you do. They believe that the relationship, the situation that you were both in is complete, that there's no need to revisit it. I'm not even going to say that they look at it fondly. They look at it and they say, well, that's done and dusted. It was a tumultuous situation. There was some great highs and there was also some very extreme lows, and they just sort of feel that they want to leave that as part of the past. I understand that you don't feel that it's part of the past, that you still feel that there's unfinished business there, and I can appreciate that, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we have to go back and finish it. Just because you feel that in your soul, that's your journey. It's not the other person's journey. They feel in their soul it's complete and there is no reason to revisit it. I feel that this is a past life connection where the two of you have done this journey before at least 3 times, and this is why you're still sort of hanging on to it, because what your soul's telling you is there's still unfinished business, but it may not necessarily be from this lifetime. It may be that there was unfinished business from the previous 3 lifetimes, which is what your soul remembers. So the only thing I can suggest to you, Mary, is maybe go back over it all in your mind, try and put it into little boxes, put it on a shelf yourself and try and sort of almost sort of feel as if you can tick that one off the list. If you can tick that section of the relationship off the list, then maybe, just maybe, you'll find some peace and some closure with all this, because I truly do not believe they're coming back towards you, and they have no inclination to. And I don't mean to be hurtful when I say this, but they don't even think about you anymore, haven't done for quite some time. So that to me clearly states that they've had closure, they've moved on, and they're quite happy in their life. Having said that, I do believe that there is a new relationship coming towards you around late June, early July. I've got a tall, dark-headed person coming into your life, which there's lots of pink hearts around, so I'm assuming from that it's going to be a very positive relationship. And I just want you to just sort of clear the past situation as best you can and open yourself up ready for what is to come. So I hope that's been helpful for you, Mary.
It has, thank you.
Okay, lovely to speak with you. We're going to go to Crystal in Ottawa in Ontario, Canada. Are you there, Crystal?
Hi, yes, I'm here.
Hi, how can I help you tonight, Crystal?
I was just wondering if there's any way that you could communicate with someone who passed over.
There's never any guarantees with that, Crystal, in such a short space of time. What I like to do is get you to give me a direct question. If that particular person that you want to connect with wants to interrupt, they will, and give us a message. If they don't, it's sometimes, it's not something you can just dial up an automatic, connection to. They have to be receptive and ready the other side to come through. So do you have a direct question I can work with, please, sweetie?
I just basically want to know how my brother Christopher Merkley is doing up in heaven.
Okay, but again, see, that's you're asking me to try and connect directly to Christopher. He may not be ready to make that connection. I mean, I can assure you he's perfectly fine up there. He mightn't want to be there, but he's perfectly fine there. There's nothing that you've got to be concerned about. What he would probably more prefer is, do you have something that relates to you that he can help you with?
Okay, I understand what you mean.
Because the first thing that I picked up around you, Crystal, was a lot of endings, a lot of changes, a lot of things that seem as if they've been going out of control. Is that how you're feeling in your life at the moment?
Yes, that's correct. I've just been struggling with whole passing in general.
Of course you are, sweetheart, of course. How long ago did Christopher pass?
Yeah, it's really hard. I get all these flashbacks, and it's just
of course,
hard.
My darling. And you will get that for some time, but has it only been a recent passing with Christopher, like the last 12 months?
Was there a recent passing?
Yeah, was it only recent that your brother went through to the other side?
He passed away in August on the 22nd.
Yeah, well, that's the last 12 months, so it's been less than 12 months, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the energy that he gave to me was it was really fresh. It was really new. Anything under 12 months usually is shown to me in that way that it was only like yesterday. It's just so quick that everybody's still adjusting to, the shock. He keeps telling me there's 2 question marks around his passing. Are you questioning how he passed or something in relation to how he passed?
Well, he passed away on an ATV. He was on a 4-wheeler and ran into a van. And I'm just curious of what the person in the van did, while he was waiting for the ambulance to come for my brother.
He keeps telling me it was an accident. Whatever caused his death wasn't meant to be that way. It wasn't something that he didn't deliberately set out to take his own life. I'll put it that way.
Okay.
So whatever transpired in the reasons, whatever he took or did or didn't do, it was at his home. He's telling me very clearly it was at his own hand. Nobody else intervened or caused it or created it or enhanced it. He was totally responsible for it, but he's also telling me that he did not intend this to be the outcome, and he wants to be very clear on that.
Okay.
And he wants to be very clear that nobody could have done anything more than what they did to change the outcome that happened. Everything that could have been done, humanly possible, was done. From anybody that was around him in the time waiting for, emergency services and everything like that, everything that could have been done and some was done. So you can rule that out. It certainly wasn't foul play. It certainly wasn't deliberate. And it certainly wasn't your brother's intention for this to have happened. And he keeps telling me you've struggled with all these what ifs and what this could have been and what that could have been. He wants you to now try and find a place that you can let that go, because that's really important to him, because he's suffering watching you suffer, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Look, he's always going to be around you. He's always going to be close to you. He always loves you. And you haven't got a baby daughter, have you?
No, I don't, but he has 2 daughters.
No, he's telling me you're going to get a baby daughter too.
Okay. All right.
I don't know when, but he just said to me, tell her about the baby daughter that's coming. And he's really excited about it. He's nursing your baby daughter that's yet to come. That doesn't mean you're going to go out and get pregnant tonight, sweetheart. I'm just telling you, he's excited because
he's nursing your baby daughter. Before this phone call ends?
What, darling?
May I please just ask you one more quick question before this phone call ends?
Yeah, sure.
So I just got diagnosed with a stomach ulcer, and I was just wondering, about the healing for that and stuff like that. If things are going to get better, if you can see if they're going to get better.
Okay, technically we're not allowed to answer health questions, but what I can tell you is he's showing me that you've got nothing to worry about. Now, that's coming direct from your brother. That's not coming from me. So technically that's how we can answer that. So he's just telling me that everything's going to be okay because he's giving me the big thumbs up.
Okay.
Okay, so I think you've got to learn to have a little chat with him of a night before you go to sleep and have a big chat and say, I love you and I miss you and just keep being with me. Anyway, that's where we've got to leave it. The show's just about to wrap up. I'd like to thank everybody for watching us. We'll do it all again next week. So if you want to purchase anything or get a book of reading with me, head to my website, www.amandahallpsychic.com.au. Don't forget to type radio in capital letters in the coupon box and you'll get a nice little surprise there. And if you want to head to my website and sign up for our free newsletter, when you join our free newsletter, you're actually eligible then for a free astrology chart, valued at $30, that will be emailed to you anywhere in the world. So I'd like you to extend that opportunity to all our viewers. Tell your friends, it's totally free. Everybody gets a free astrology chart. You're under no obligation to buy anything. We just like to have you as part of the Amanda Hall Psychic family here in Australia. So until next week, have a great week. I hope you enjoy whatever you're going to be doing, and bye for now.